Okay, so Apple just dropped a minor refresh for the MacBook Pro, right? But honestly, that's not the big news. The real story, the one everyone's talking about, is what's coming next. We're hearing rumors of a massive, ground up overhaul that could, completely redefine what a Pro laptop even is. So let's dive in and break it all down.
And look, I want to be super clear here. We are not talking about some small incremental change. No way. Sources are actually calling this one of the biggest MacBook Pro updates ever. This isn't just a simple spec bump. It's a fundamental, foundational shift in everything: the design, how you interact with it, and of course, the performance.
So you're probably asking, what exactly makes this update so huge? Well, we're going to break it down into four key areas, kind of like the four pillars of this new machine. We've got a revolutionary OLED touchscreen, the dynamic island finally making its way to the Mac, a brand new thinner design, and, you guessed it, the raw power of the next-gen M6 chip. All right, first up, let's jump into what is probably the most dramatic, most in-your-face change: the display. And trust me on this is so much more than just a simple screen upgrade. So the MacBook Pros we have right now, they use these fantastic mini LED displays. They're great, but they rely on a backlight to light up the pixels. Now the big leap forward here is OLED. With OLED, every single pixel is its own light source. It can turn itself on and off completely. So what does that mean for you? It means you get true, perfect blacks, like ink black. And because of that, you get basically infinite contrast and colors that just pop off the screen. It's a game changer for visuals. And honestly, this is a huge deal. Think about it. We've had these gorgeous OLED screens on our iPhones and Apple Watches for years, right? This would be the very first time it comes to a Mac. It's finally bringing the Pro laptop display up to speed with Apple's other top-of-the-line devices. But, okay, that amazing OLED panel, that's only half the story. The other half is even crazier. This is reportedly going to be Apple's first ever touchscreen Mac. And hold on, before you roll your eyes, we're not just talking about them slapping a touch layer on the screen and calling it a day. No, this is being described as a complete, fundamental rethink of macOS itself, all to make touch feel totally natural and native. So you're wondering, how would that even work? Well, from what we're hearing, macOS is going to be super smart about it. It'll adapt intelligently. For example, maybe you touch a button, and the system dynamically shows you controls that make sense for touch. Or you go to tap the menu bar, and the icons and text actually get a little bigger, so they're easier to hit with your finger. And of course, you'll get all the familiar gestures you already know and love, like pinch to zoom and that buttery smooth scrolling. Okay, so the changes aren't just happening on the screen, they're happening all around it too. We're really talking about a brand new look and feel here, something that's going to redefine that whole Pro aesthetic. For the last couple of years, the one thing that's defined the MacBook Pro's display has been the notch. Well, it's time to say goodbye to that, because its replacement is something a lot more functional and something that'll look very familiar if you've used a recent iPhone. Yep, we're talking about the dynamic island. It's reportedly coming to the Mac. So how does this actually work on a Mac? Well, the hardware part is pretty simple. It's just a little hole punch cutout for the camera. But the software? Oh man, that's where the magic is. Just like on the iPhone, the dynamic island will take advantage of those perfect black pixels on the new OLED screen to completely hide that cutout. It then creates this fluid, interactive little space for things like live activities, notifications, and all your system alerts. The other huge design change we're hearing about is a move back to a thinner body. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. If you remember those MacBook Pros from, say, 2016 to 2020, the word thinner might make you a little nervous, right? Because back then, thinner often meant performance trade-offs. So the big question is, what's different this time around? And the answer is really simple. It comes down to two words: Apple Silicon. See those older thin models? They were running on Intel chips, which were just less efficient. They got hot, and when they got hot, the computer had to slow itself down to cool off. That's thermal throttling. But these new models, they're going to run on Apple's own hyper-efficient silicon. That's the secret sauce that lets them build a super slim design without having to sacrifice power or worry about it overheating. And hey, speaking of that silicon, let's talk about the actual engine that's going to be driving this new machine, the M6 chip. And everything we're hearing points to this being another massive leap forward in performance. Just look at this: 2 nanometers, 2 nm. Now, that might just sound like some technical jargon, right? But this number, it refers to the new manufacturing process for the M6 chip. And trust me, it might sound like a tiny detail, but it is the key to unlocking a whole new level of performance. So what does moving to a 2-nanometer process actually mean? Well, it basically lets Apple cram way more transistors onto the chip and do it more efficiently. And what that means for you is huge gains across the board, in both raw power and in efficiency. We're talking about the kind of power that lets you compile complex code in an instant or render massive 3D scenes without the machine even breaking a sweat. You could run complex AI models right there on your laptop. And the best part? All that extra power comes with more efficiency, which probably means even better battery life. It's kind of the best of both worlds. Okay, so with all of these massive changes, you've got to wonder, where does this new machine even fit into Apple's overall strategy? Let's piece it together and look at the rumored name, the timing, and where it sits in the product line. So, according to a really reliable source, Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg, this new model isn't actually going to replace the current MacBook Pros. Get this, it's expected to be a brand new, even higher tier. It would actually sit above the M5 Pro and M5 Max models that we have now. Right, so if it's a whole new tier, it's probably going to need a new name to set it apart, right? And the name that keeps getting floated around is MacBook Ultra. I mean, that would make it pretty clear, wouldn't it? Signaling its spot at the absolute peak of Apple's laptop family. So when can we actually get our hands on one? Well, remember, Apple just refreshed the M5 lineup. The timeline we're seeing for this new M6 monster points to a release in late 2026. Think October or November. And what's interesting is that this means for a while, the M5 models and this new M6 model would be sold at the same time, side by side. That gives Pro users a whole new level of choice, which is pretty cool. So let's just step back and put it all together. You've got a touchscreen OLED display, you've got the dynamic island on a Mac for the first time, a thinner, sleeker design powered by a crazy efficient M6 chip, and a whole new top-tier spot in the lineup. It's really clear that this is shaping up to be an absolutely monumental leap forward. So I guess the only question left for you is this the ultimate Pro machine you've been waiting for?